School.
She goes to school every weekday. She goes to school every weekday. The school has excellent facilities and teachers. The school has excellent facilities and teachers. They arrived at school early this morning. They arrived at school early this morning.
Teacher.
The teacher explained the lesson clearly. The teacher explained the lesson clearly. She asked the teacher for help with her homework. She asked the teacher for help with her homework. They respected their teacher and listened carefully. They respected their teacher and listened carefully.
Student.
She is a hardworking student who always does her best. She is a hardworking student who always does her best. The students were preparing for their exams. The students were preparing for their exams. They are good students who pay attention in class. They are good students who pay attention in class.
Classroom.
She entered the classroom and took her seat. She entered the classroom and took her seat. The classroom was bright and well equipped. The classroom was bright and well equipped. They cleaned the classroom at the end of the day. They cleaned the classroom at the end of the day.
Lesson.
She enjoyed the maths lesson today. She enjoyed the maths lesson today. The lesson covered important topics about history. The lesson covered important topics about history. They learned a lot from that lesson. They learned a lot from that lesson.
Homework.
She finished her homework before dinner. She finished her homework before dinner. The homework was quite challenging this week. The homework was quite challenging this week. They helped each other with their homework. They helped each other with their homework.
Exam.
She studied hard for the exam. She studied hard for the exam. The exam was more difficult than expected. The exam was more difficult than expected. They felt nervous before the exam. They felt nervous before the exam.
Test.
She passed the test with flying colors. She passed the test with flying colors. The test covered everything they had learned. The test covered everything they had learned. They revised for the test together. They revised for the test together.
Book.
She opened her book to the correct page. She opened her book to the correct page. The book contained all the information they needed. The book contained all the information they needed. They borrowed books from the school library. They borrowed books from the school library.
Notebook.
She wrote her notes in her notebook. She wrote her notes in her notebook. The notebook was full of important information. The notebook was full of important information. They organized their notebooks by subject. They organized their notebooks by subject.
Pen.
She wrote with a blue pen. She wrote with a blue pen. The pen ran out of ink during the exam. The pen ran out of ink during the exam. They always carried a pen in their school bag. They always carried a pen in their school bag.
Pencil.
She used a pencil for her maths work. She used a pencil for her maths work. The pencil needed sharpening. The pencil needed sharpening. They preferred using a pencil so they could erase mistakes. They preferred using a pencil so they could erase mistakes.
Ruler.
She used a ruler to draw straight lines. She used a ruler to draw straight lines. The ruler was 30 centimeters long. The ruler was 30 centimeters long. They measured the paper with a ruler. They measured the paper with a ruler.
Rubber.
She used a rubber to correct her mistake. She used a rubber to correct her mistake. The rubber was worn down from frequent use. The rubber was worn down from frequent use. They shared a rubber when one of them forgot theirs. They shared a rubber when one of them forgot theirs.
Desk.
She sat at her desk and began working. She sat at her desk and began working. The desk had space for books and stationery. The desk had space for books and stationery. They kept their desks tidy and organized. They kept their desks tidy and organized.
Chair.
She pulled out her chair and sat down. She pulled out her chair and sat down. The chair was comfortable for long lessons. The chair was comfortable for long lessons. They arranged the chairs in a circle for discussion. They arranged the chairs in a circle for discussion.
Blackboard.
The teacher wrote on the blackboard. The teacher wrote on the blackboard. The blackboard was covered with equations. The blackboard was covered with equations. They copied the notes from the blackboard. They copied the notes from the blackboard.
Whiteboard.
She wrote on the whiteboard with a marker pen. She wrote on the whiteboard with a marker pen. The whiteboard was easy to clean. The whiteboard was easy to clean. They used the whiteboard for group presentations. They used the whiteboard for group presentations.
Library.
She spent her lunch break in the library. She spent her lunch break in the library. The library had a wide selection of books. The library had a wide selection of books. They borrowed books from the library for their project. They borrowed books from the library for their project.
Playground.
She played with her friends in the playground. She played with her friends in the playground. The playground was busy during break time. The playground was busy during break time. They ran around the playground during lunch break. They ran around the playground during lunch break.
Canteen.
She had lunch in the school canteen. She had lunch in the school canteen. The canteen served hot meals and snacks. The canteen served hot meals and snacks. They met their friends in the canteen every day. They met their friends in the canteen every day.
Break.
She looked forward to break time. She looked forward to break time. The break lasted for 15 minutes. The break lasted for 15 minutes. They played games during the break. They played games during the break.
Lunch break.
She ate her packed lunch during lunch break. She ate her packed lunch during lunch break. The lunch break was from 12:30 to 1:30. The lunch break was from 12:30 to 1:30. They had plenty of time during lunch break to relax. They had plenty of time during lunch break to relax.
Subject.
She enjoyed all her subjects at school. She enjoyed all her subjects at school. The subject she found most challenging was physics. The subject she found most challenging was physics. They had to choose their subjects for next year. They had to choose their subjects for next year.
Maths.
She was good at maths and enjoyed solving problems. She was good at maths and enjoyed solving problems. The maths lesson was about algebra. The maths lesson was about algebra. They studied maths for 2 hours every day. They studied maths for 2 hours every day.
English.
She loved studying English literature. She loved studying English literature. The English teacher was very encouraging. The English teacher was very encouraging. They practiced speaking English in class. They practiced speaking English in class.
Science.
She found science fascinating and wanted to learn more. She found science fascinating and wanted to learn more. The science lab had all the equipment they needed. The science lab had all the equipment they needed. They conducted experiments in science class. They conducted experiments in science class.
History.
She learned about ancient civilizations in history. She learned about ancient civilizations in history. The history lesson covered the Second World War. The history lesson covered the Second World War. They wrote essays about different history topics. They wrote essays about different history topics.
Art.
She expressed her creativity in art class. She expressed her creativity in art class. The art room was full of paintings and sculptures. The art room was full of paintings and sculptures. They created beautiful artwork in art lessons. They created beautiful artwork in art lessons.
PE.
She enjoyed PE and loved playing sports. She enjoyed PE and loved playing sports. The PE lesson took place in the sports hall. The PE lesson took place in the sports hall. They changed into their sports kit for PE. They changed into their sports kit for PE.
To learn.
She wanted to learn as much as possible. She wanted to learn as much as possible. They learned about different countries in geography. They learned about different countries in geography. We will learn new vocabulary in today's lesson. We will learn new vocabulary in today's lesson.
To study.
She needed to study for her upcoming exams. She needed to study for her upcoming exams. They studied together in the library. They studied together in the library. We will study this topic in more detail next week. We will study this topic in more detail next week.
To teach.
The teacher taught them about the solar system. The teacher taught them about the solar system. She taught English to primary school children. She taught English to primary school children. They will teach us about ancient history. They will teach us about ancient history.
To read.
She loved to read books in her spare time. She loved to read books in her spare time. They read the chapter aloud in class. They read the chapter aloud in class. We will read this text together. We will read this text together.
To write.
She wrote her essay carefully. She wrote her essay carefully. They wrote notes during the lesson. They wrote notes during the lesson. We will write a story for homework. We will write a story for homework.
To listen.
She tried to listen carefully to the teacher. She tried to listen carefully to the teacher. They listened to the instructions before starting. They listened to the instructions before starting. We need to listen to understand the lesson. We need to listen to understand the lesson.
To understand.
She didn't understand the maths problem at first. She didn't understand the maths problem at first. They understood the concept after the explanation. They understood the concept after the explanation. We will help you understand this topic. We will help you understand this topic.
To ask.
She raised her hand to ask a question. She raised her hand to ask a question. They asked the teacher for clarification. They asked the teacher for clarification. We can ask if we don't understand something. We can ask if we don't understand something.
To answer.
She answered the question correctly. She answered the question correctly. They answered all the exam questions. They answered all the exam questions. We will answer your questions at the end. We will answer your questions at the end.
To do.
She had to do her homework every evening. She had to do her homework every evening. They did a project about the environment. They did a project about the environment. We will do exercises to practice what we learned. We will do exercises to practice what we learned.
To finish.
She finished her work before the bell rang. She finished her work before the bell rang. They finished the exam with time to spare. They finished the exam with time to spare. We will finish this chapter next lesson. We will finish this chapter next lesson.
To start.
She started her homework immediately after school. She started her homework immediately after school. They started the lesson with a warm-up activity. They started the lesson with a warm-up activity. We will start learning about fractions today. We will start learning about fractions today.
To revise.
She needed to revise for her exams. She needed to revise for her exams. They revised the vocabulary they had learned. They revised the vocabulary they had learned. We will revise this topic before the test. We will revise this topic before the test.
To pass.
She was delighted to pass her exam. She was delighted to pass her exam. They passed all their subjects with good grades. They passed all their subjects with good grades. We hope to pass the test next week. We hope to pass the test next week.
To fail.
She was disappointed to fail the test. She was disappointed to fail the test. They didn't want to fail the exam. They didn't want to fail the exam. We need to study harder so we don't fail. We need to study harder so we don't fail.
Grade.
She received an excellent grade for her essay. She received an excellent grade for her essay. The grade reflected her hard work and effort. The grade reflected her hard work and effort. They were pleased with their grades this term. They were pleased with their grades this term.
Mark.
She got a high mark on her maths test. She got a high mark on her maths test. The mark was better than she expected. The mark was better than she expected. They compared their marks after the exam. They compared their marks after the exam.
Backpack.
She carried her books in her backpack. She carried her books in her backpack. The backpack was heavy with all her school supplies. The backpack was heavy with all her school supplies. They packed their backpacks before leaving school. They packed their backpacks before leaving school.
Timetable.
She checked her timetable to see what lessons she had. She checked her timetable to see what lessons she had. The timetable showed all her subjects for the week. The timetable showed all her subjects for the week. They followed the timetable to know where to go. They followed the timetable to know where to go.
Friend.
She sat next to her friend in class. She sat next to her friend in class. The friends studied together after school. The friends studied together after school. They made new friends at school. They made new friends at school.
Classmate.
She worked on the project with her classmate. She worked on the project with her classmate. The classmates helped each other with homework. The classmates helped each other with homework. They were classmates for 3 years. They were classmates for 3 years.
Headteacher.
She went to see the headteacher about a problem. She went to see the headteacher about a problem. The headteacher announced the school rules. The headteacher announced the school rules. They respected the headteacher and followed the rules. They respected the headteacher and followed the rules.
Bell.
The bell rang to signal the end of the lesson. The bell rang to signal the end of the lesson. She heard the bell and packed her bag. She heard the bell and packed her bag. They waited for the bell to start break time. They waited for the bell to start break time.
Corridor.
She walked down the corridor to her next lesson. She walked down the corridor to her next lesson. The corridor was busy between lessons. The corridor was busy between lessons. They met in the corridor before going to class. They met in the corridor before going to class.
Assembly.
She attended the morning assembly. She attended the morning assembly. The assembly was held in the main hall. The assembly was held in the main hall. They listened to announcements during assembly. They listened to announcements during assembly.
Project.
She worked on a science project about plants. She worked on a science project about plants. The project required research and presentation. The project required research and presentation. They completed their project on time. They completed their project on time.
Essay.
She wrote a long essay about Shakespeare. She wrote a long essay about Shakespeare. The essay was well structured and informative. The essay was well structured and informative. They had to write an essay for homework. They had to write an essay for homework.
Assignment.
She completed her assignment before the deadline. She completed her assignment before the deadline. The assignment was challenging but interesting. The assignment was challenging but interesting. They handed in their assignment on time. They handed in their assignment on time.
Exercise.
She did the maths exercises in her workbook. She did the maths exercises in her workbook. The exercise helped them practice the new grammar. The exercise helped them practice the new grammar. They completed all the exercises in the chapter. They completed all the exercises in the chapter.
Question.
She asked a question about the homework. She asked a question about the homework. The question was difficult to answer. The question was difficult to answer. They discussed the questions in groups. They discussed the questions in groups.
Note.
She took notes during the lesson. She took notes during the lesson. The notes helped her revise for the exam. The notes helped her revise for the exam. They compared their notes after class. They compared their notes after class.
Page.
She turned to page 42 in her textbook. She turned to page 42 in her textbook. The page contained important information. The page contained important information. They read several pages for homework. They read several pages for homework.
Chapter.
She finished reading the chapter about the Romans. She finished reading the chapter about the Romans. The chapter was long but interesting. The chapter was long but interesting. They studied the chapter together. They studied the chapter together.
Dictionary.
She looked up the word in her dictionary. She looked up the word in her dictionary. The dictionary helped her understand new vocabulary. The dictionary helped her understand new vocabulary. They used the dictionary to check spellings. They used the dictionary to check spellings.
Calculator.
She used a calculator for the maths exam. She used a calculator for the maths exam. The calculator made the calculations easier. The calculator made the calculations easier. They were allowed to use calculators in class. They were allowed to use calculators in class.
Computer.
She used the computer to write her essay. She used the computer to write her essay. The computer lab had modern equipment. The computer lab had modern equipment. They learned to use computers in ICT class. They learned to use computers in ICT class.
Folder.
She kept her work organized in a folder. She kept her work organized in a folder. The folder contained all her notes for the subject. The folder contained all her notes for the subject. They used different folders for each subject. They used different folders for each subject.
Paper.
She wrote her essay on lined paper. She wrote her essay on lined paper. The paper was running out in the printer. The paper was running out in the printer. They used recycled paper for their drawings. They used recycled paper for their drawings.
Scissors.
She used scissors to cut out the pictures. She used scissors to cut out the pictures. The scissors were kept in the art room. The scissors were kept in the art room. They shared the scissors for the craft project. They shared the scissors for the craft project.
Glue.
She used glue to stick the photos in her project. She used glue to stick the photos in her project. The glue dried quickly. The glue dried quickly. They applied glue carefully to avoid mess. They applied glue carefully to avoid mess.
Marker.
She wrote on the whiteboard with a marker. She wrote on the whiteboard with a marker. The marker was running out of ink. The marker was running out of ink. They used different colored markers for their presentation. They used different colored markers for their presentation.
Highlighter.
She used a highlighter to mark important information. She used a highlighter to mark important information. The highlighter made the text stand out. The highlighter made the text stand out. They highlighted key points with a highlighter. They highlighted key points with a highlighter.
Pencil case.
She kept all her pens and pencils in her pencil case. She kept all her pens and pencils in her pencil case. The pencil case was full of stationery. The pencil case was full of stationery. They opened their pencil cases at the start of the lesson. They opened their pencil cases at the start of the lesson.
Locker.
She stored her books in her locker. She stored her books in her locker. The locker was located in the corridor. The locker was located in the corridor. They forgot the combination to their locker. They forgot the combination to their locker.
Uniform.
She wore her school uniform every day. She wore her school uniform every day. The uniform consisted of a blazer and tie. The uniform consisted of a blazer and tie. They had to wear their uniform correctly. They had to wear their uniform correctly.
Geography.
She learned about different countries in geography. She learned about different countries in geography. The geography lesson was about climate change. The geography lesson was about climate change. They studied maps in geography class. They studied maps in geography class.
French.
She was learning French as a foreign language. She was learning French as a foreign language. The French teacher was from Paris. The French teacher was from Paris. They practiced speaking French in conversation class. They practiced speaking French in conversation class.
Spanish.
She chose to study Spanish because she loved the language. She chose to study Spanish because she loved the language. The Spanish lesson included grammar and vocabulary. The Spanish lesson included grammar and vocabulary. They watched Spanish films in Spanish class. They watched Spanish films in Spanish class.
Music.
She played the piano in music class. She played the piano in music class. The music room had various instruments. The music room had various instruments. They learned to read music notation. They learned to read music notation.
Biology.
She found biology fascinating and wanted to study it further. She found biology fascinating and wanted to study it further. The biology lesson involved dissecting a plant. The biology lesson involved dissecting a plant. They conducted experiments in biology class. They conducted experiments in biology class.
Chemistry.
She enjoyed chemistry and the practical experiments. She enjoyed chemistry and the practical experiments. The chemistry lab had safety equipment. The chemistry lab had safety equipment. They learned about chemical reactions in chemistry. They learned about chemical reactions in chemistry.
Physics.
She found physics challenging but rewarding. She found physics challenging but rewarding. The physics lesson explained the laws of motion. The physics lesson explained the laws of motion. They did experiments in the physics lab. They did experiments in the physics lab.
To copy.
She copied the notes from the board. She copied the notes from the board. They copied their friend's homework, which was wrong. They copied their friend's homework, which was wrong. We will copy the diagram into our notebooks. We will copy the diagram into our notebooks.
To draw.
She loved to draw pictures in art class. She loved to draw pictures in art class. They drew diagrams to explain the concept. They drew diagrams to explain the concept. We will draw a map of the country. We will draw a map of the country.
To color.
She colored the picture with crayons. She colored the picture with crayons. They colored the map using different colors for each region. They colored the map using different colors for each region. We will color our drawings in art class. We will color our drawings in art class.
To cut.
She cut out the shapes with scissors. She cut out the shapes with scissors. They cut the paper into smaller pieces. They cut the paper into smaller pieces. We will cut and paste the pictures onto the poster. We will cut and paste the pictures onto the poster.
To stick.
She stuck the photos onto the poster. She stuck the photos onto the poster. They stuck the worksheet into their exercise book. They stuck the worksheet into their exercise book. We will stick the labels on the diagram. We will stick the labels on the diagram.
To erase.
She erased her mistake with a rubber. She erased her mistake with a rubber. They erased the whiteboard after the lesson. They erased the whiteboard after the lesson. We can erase and start again if we make a mistake. We can erase and start again if we make a mistake.
To underline.
She underlined the important words in the text. She underlined the important words in the text. They underlined the key points in their notes. They underlined the key points in their notes. We will underline the main ideas in the paragraph. We will underline the main ideas in the paragraph.
To highlight.
She highlighted important information with a marker. She highlighted important information with a marker. They highlighted the vocabulary they needed to learn. They highlighted the vocabulary they needed to learn. We will highlight the main points in the text. We will highlight the main points in the text.
To remember.
She tried to remember all the facts for the exam. She tried to remember all the facts for the exam. They remembered the teacher's instructions. They remembered the teacher's instructions. We need to remember this information for the test. We need to remember this information for the test.
To forget.
She forgot to bring her homework to school. She forgot to bring her homework to school. They forgot the answer to the question. They forgot the answer to the question. We must not forget to revise for the exam. We must not forget to revise for the exam.
To explain.
The teacher explained the concept clearly. The teacher explained the concept clearly. She explained her answer to the class. She explained her answer to the class. We will explain how to solve this problem. We will explain how to solve this problem.
To practice.
She needed to practice her spelling. She needed to practice her spelling. They practiced speaking French in conversation class. They practiced speaking French in conversation class. We will practice these exercises until we understand them. We will practice these exercises until we understand them.
To play.
She loved to play games during break time. She loved to play games during break time. They played football in the playground. They played football in the playground. We will play an educational game in class. We will play an educational game in class.
To sit.
She sat at her desk and opened her book. She sat at her desk and opened her book. They sat quietly during the lesson. They sat quietly during the lesson. We will sit in a circle for the discussion. We will sit in a circle for the discussion.
To stand.
She stood up to answer the question. She stood up to answer the question. They stood in line outside the classroom. They stood in line outside the classroom. We will stand when the headteacher enters. We will stand when the headteacher enters.
To raise.
She raised her hand to ask a question. She raised her hand to ask a question. They raised their hands when they knew the answer. They raised their hands when they knew the answer. We should raise our hands before speaking. We should raise our hands before speaking.
To hand in.
She handed in her homework to the teacher. She handed in her homework to the teacher. They handed in their assignments before the deadline. They handed in their assignments before the deadline. We must hand in our essays by Friday. We must hand in our essays by Friday.
To collect.
The teacher collected the homework at the start of the lesson. The teacher collected the homework at the start of the lesson. She collected her marked work from the teacher. She collected her marked work from the teacher. They will collect the worksheets at the end. They will collect the worksheets at the end.
To correct.
The teacher corrected their mistakes. The teacher corrected their mistakes. She corrected her spelling errors. She corrected her spelling errors. We will correct the exercises together. We will correct the exercises together.
To check.
She checked her work before handing it in. She checked her work before handing it in. They checked their answers with the teacher. They checked their answers with the teacher. We will check the homework together in class. We will check the homework together in class.
To spell.
She asked how to spell the word. She asked how to spell the word. They spelled the word correctly in the test. They spelled the word correctly in the test. We will spell the vocabulary words aloud. We will spell the vocabulary words aloud.
To attend.
She attended all her classes regularly. She attended all her classes regularly. They attended the school assembly every Monday. They attended the school assembly every Monday. We must attend school every day unless we are ill. We must attend school every day unless we are ill.
Bonus examples.
She had to go to school early today. She had to go to school early today. They went to the library to study. They went to the library to study. We will go to the computer room for ICT. We will go to the computer room for ICT. She came to school by bus. She came to school by bus. They came to class prepared with their homework. They came to class prepared with their homework. We will come back after break. We will come back after break. She brought her books to school. She brought her books to school. They brought their PE kit for sports. They brought their PE kit for sports. We must bring our homework tomorrow. We must bring our homework tomorrow. She took her bag and left the classroom. She took her bag and left the classroom. They took notes during the lesson. They took notes during the lesson. We will take the exam next week. We will take the exam next week. The teacher gave them homework for the weekend. The teacher gave them homework for the weekend. She gave her friend a pen when they forgot theirs. She gave her friend a pen when they forgot theirs. We will give our presentations next lesson. We will give our presentations next lesson. She got a good grade on her test. She got a good grade on her test. They got permission to go to the library. They got permission to go to the library. We need to get our books from our lockers. We need to get our books from our lockers. She had maths first thing in the morning. She had maths first thing in the morning. They had a test in history today. They had a test in history today. We will have a break in 10 minutes. We will have a break in 10 minutes. She was a good student who always tried her best. She was a good student who always tried her best. They were in the classroom when the bell rang. They were in the classroom when the bell rang. We will be ready for the exam. We will be ready for the exam. She said hello to her teacher. She said hello to her teacher. The teacher said the homework was due on Friday. The teacher said the homework was due on Friday. We will say the answers out loud. We will say the answers out loud. The teacher told them about the school trip. The teacher told them about the school trip. She told her friend about the new subject. She told her friend about the new subject. We will tell you the results next week. We will tell you the results next week. She spoke clearly when answering questions. She spoke clearly when answering questions. They spoke English in the English lesson. They spoke English in the English lesson. We will speak about our projects in class. We will speak about our projects in class. She talked to her friend during break. She talked to her friend during break. They talked about their homework together. They talked about their homework together. We should not talk during the exam. We should not talk during the exam. She thought carefully before answering. She thought carefully before answering. They thought the lesson was interesting. They thought the lesson was interesting. We need to think about the answer. We need to think about the answer. She knew the answer to the question. She knew the answer to the question. They knew how to solve the maths problem. They knew how to solve the maths problem. We will know the results soon. We will know the results soon. She saw the teacher writing on the board. She saw the teacher writing on the board. They saw their friends in the playground. They saw their friends in the playground. We will see a film in history class. We will see a film in history class. She looked at the board to see the instructions. She looked at the board to see the instructions. They looked in their books for the answer. They looked in their books for the answer. We will look at the diagram together. We will look at the diagram together. She watched the educational video in class. She watched the educational video in class. They watched a documentary about science. They watched a documentary about science. We will watch a film next lesson. We will watch a film next lesson. She found her pen in her pencil case. She found her pen in her pencil case. They found the answer in the textbook. They found the answer in the textbook. We will find the information we need. We will find the information we need. She lost her homework and had to do it again. She lost her homework and had to do it again. They lost their way to the new classroom. They lost their way to the new classroom. We must not lose our school books. We must not lose our school books. She opened her book to page 25. She opened her book to page 25. They opened their pencil cases to get their pens. They opened their pencil cases to get their pens. We will open the windows for fresh air. We will open the windows for fresh air. She closed her notebook after the lesson. She closed her notebook after the lesson. They closed the door quietly when leaving. They closed the door quietly when leaving. We will close our books and listen. We will close our books and listen. She turned to the next page in her book. She turned to the next page in her book. They turned around to see who was calling. They turned around to see who was calling. We will turn off the lights before leaving. We will turn off the lights before leaving. She put her bag under her desk. She put her bag under her desk. They put their hands up to answer. They put their hands up to answer. We will put our books away now. We will put our books away now. She took out her pen from her pencil case. She took out her pen from her pencil case. They took out their homework to hand in. They took out their homework to hand in. We will take out our notebooks. We will take out our notebooks. She put away her books after the lesson. She put away her books after the lesson. They put away their equipment in the art room. They put away their equipment in the art room. We will put away our things before break. We will put away our things before break. She worked hard on her project. She worked hard on her project. They worked together on the group assignment. They worked together on the group assignment. We will work on this exercise in pairs. We will work on this exercise in pairs. She helped her classmate with the difficult problem. She helped her classmate with the difficult problem. The teacher helped them understand the concept. The teacher helped them understand the concept. We will help each other with the homework. We will help each other with the homework. She needed help with her maths homework. She needed help with her maths homework. They needed more time to finish the test. They needed more time to finish the test. We need to study more for the exam. We need to study more for the exam. She wanted to do well in her exams. She wanted to do well in her exams. They wanted to join the school club. They wanted to join the school club. We want to learn more about this topic. We want to learn more about this topic. She liked studying science. She liked studying science. They liked their new teacher. They liked their new teacher. We like doing experiments in class. We like doing experiments in class. She tried her best in every lesson. She tried her best in every lesson. They tried to solve the problem together. They tried to solve the problem together. We will try to finish the exercise today. We will try to finish the exercise today. She succeeded in passing all her exams. She succeeded in passing all her exams. They succeeded in completing the project on time. They succeeded in completing the project on time. We hope to succeed in the test. We hope to succeed in the test. She improved her grades by studying harder. She improved her grades by studying harder. They improved their English by practicing. They improved their English by practicing. We will improve if we keep working hard. We will improve if we keep working hard. She paid attention during the important lesson. She paid attention during the important lesson. They paid attention to the teacher's instructions. They paid attention to the teacher's instructions. We must pay attention to understand. We must pay attention to understand. She concentrated hard on her exam. She concentrated hard on her exam. They concentrated on solving the problem. They concentrated on solving the problem. We need to concentrate during the test. We need to concentrate during the test. She focused on her studies to get better grades. She focused on her studies to get better grades. They focused on the task at hand. They focused on the task at hand. We will focus on this chapter today. We will focus on this chapter today. She participated actively in class discussions. She participated actively in class discussions. They participated in the school play. They participated in the school play. We should participate more in lessons. We should participate more in lessons. She joined the school choir. She joined the school choir. They joined the study group to prepare for exams. They joined the study group to prepare for exams. We will join the other students in the hall. We will join the other students in the hall. She left school at 3:30 every day. She left school at 3:30 every day. They left their books in the classroom. They left their books in the classroom. We will leave after the last lesson. We will leave after the last lesson. She arrived at school early every morning. She arrived at school early every morning. They arrived late and missed the start of the lesson. They arrived late and missed the start of the lesson. We will arrive on time for the exam. We will arrive on time for the exam. She went home after finishing her classes. She went home after finishing her classes. They went home to do their homework. They went home to do their homework. We will go home when school finishes. We will go home when school finishes. She made a mistake in her calculation. She made a mistake in her calculation. The mistake was easy to correct. The mistake was easy to correct. They learned from their mistakes. They learned from their mistakes. She wrote the answer on her worksheet. She wrote the answer on her worksheet. The answer was correct. The answer was correct. They checked their answers with the teacher. They checked their answers with the teacher. She found the maths problem difficult. She found the maths problem difficult. The difficult exam required a lot of study. The difficult exam required a lot of study. They helped each other with the difficult homework. They helped each other with the difficult homework. She found the exercise easy to complete. She found the exercise easy to complete. The easy test boosted their confidence. The easy test boosted their confidence. They finished the easy homework quickly. They finished the easy homework quickly. She highlighted the important information. She highlighted the important information. The important lesson covered exam topics. The important lesson covered exam topics. They focused on the important points. They focused on the important points. She worked in the quiet library. She worked in the quiet library. The classroom was quiet during the test. The classroom was quiet during the test. They needed a quiet place to study. They needed a quiet place to study. The playground was loud during break. The playground was loud during break. She spoke in a loud voice so everyone could hear. She spoke in a loud voice so everyone could hear. They were too loud in the corridor. They were too loud in the corridor. She arrived at school early every day. She arrived at school early every day. The early morning lesson was challenging. The early morning lesson was challenging. They finished their work early. They finished their work early. She was late for class and missed the start. She was late for class and missed the start. They handed in their homework late. They handed in their homework late. We must not be late for the exam. We must not be late for the exam. She was ready for the exam after studying hard. She was ready for the exam after studying hard. They got ready for the school trip. They got ready for the school trip. We will be ready when the lesson starts. We will be ready when the lesson starts.